a slight delay in starting because I just wanted to chat with the people. Morning, Bonnie. Just wanted to have a chat with the officials of the cathedral to allow me to start by filming in the cathedral. So just had a slight delay in kick-starting this morning. So welcome to all of you who have joined. We're now standing quietly in Arundel Cathedral, which is really quite stunning and quite a pleasure. Yes, I'm indoors, Bonnie, because it is actually chucking it down. I think it's called thinking on your feet and trying to think of alternative ways around it. Oh, signal's dropped, but I will be getting wet later. Welcome to all the people who are joining. We're actually at the moment inside Arundel Cathedral. You'll get a nice shot behind me of a rather stunning window. I can lift that above my head. But we'll have a proper look at that in a minute when the tour officially starts, which is very soon. I normally like to start well before the tour, but in improvising the tour, I had to quickly get some official acceptance, so just had to wait a little while. Welcome to all who are joining us on this very wet day on the south coast of England. Shouldn't be surprised, really, should we? It is summer after all. Hi, Linda. Welcome. Just having a calm, quiet start. It is beautiful, Deirdre. It is absolutely beautiful. And I think I'm quite lucky that they've allowed me to film. It's not very common that this is a cathedral. It's not very often that English places are too keen on people filming. So I'm very lucky that they've let me in from the rain. But also, it is beautiful. And I've never really thought to come inside because there's so much we need to look at around the town. Hi, Lema. Hi, Claire. Welcome to all who've joined me just now on this very wet day. I'm hoping if we wait long enough in here, it might have stopped outside. But as I drove over, the heavens opened and very heavy rain, I'm afraid. So we've got a couple of minutes to go. Is there anybody joining us who's never been on one of my tours before? Welcome, Jose in Mexico. Welcome from sunny, hot South Africa, I guess. Yeah, I think I might rather be there today. There you go. So is anybody new to me and my tours? Yeah, well, it is winter, isn't it? It's winter in South Africa. So it should be slightly different. Oh, well, welcome, Lorraine. That's really nice. Welcome. So we're going to start off indoors for a change. I'll probably try and hide in here as long as possible, to be honest, but hey. Maybe you can't remember. I'm sure you have, Lorna. Oh, welcome, Lema. That's really kind. So we've just got a minute to go. And then I'll just show you quickly around here and not try to disturb other visitors too much. But have a nice look around the cathedral. So, welcome. I don't think there'll be anyone who's actually new to Hagar. I can't imagine. Welcome, Dreamer. Name I do know. Welcome. Welcome, Robin. You can just see a little glimpse behind me of how beautiful this building is. Hi, Zalt. Welcome. Welcome, Robin. Ah, gosh, you went to Arundel when you were 9. And I have seen you on other tours, KY. I've certainly seen you on, I think, were you in Milan yesterday? I think so. Oh, well, you'll find this interesting. Hi, Paddy. Saw you this morning in Florence. It's nice to see all these names. Okay, so we're going to kick off the tour. For those of you that are new to me, my name is Virginia, known as Ginny, and I live on the south coast of England in Worthing. And Arundel, where I am today, is just about 3 miles away from me. And it's my go-to place at the weekend. I love it, absolutely love it. So I'm going to turn the camera around and we're going to start off in Arundel Cathedral. partly because it's chucking it down and I didn't want to get wet the whole of the trip. So I asked permission that we should be able to come inside to keep dry and for you to have a look. So let's have a little look round the cathedral. I'm going to take you first over here to probably the most significant part of the cathedral. Now, this is a Roman Catholic cathedral, which is called the Church of Our Lady and St. Philip Howard. And this is a beautiful worked tapestry of Sir Philip Howard. And this is an amazing, Lorna, that you would have been here. So this is the tomb in honour of Sir Philip Howard. And some of his remains are here. And he was a martyr and the Earl of Arundel from 1557 to 1595. I will tell you in a minute. I think we'll wait till I'm outside to do a lot of talking, Tess, because I'm aware there are other people in the cathedral. But I wanted you to be able to see this because I've never been able to film inside. So that is the tomb of Sir Philip Howard, who used to live in the castle and who is the reason why this became a cathedral. And I will tell you the history when we're slightly out of the building. Oh my goodness, Lorna. So I'd like to turn you now up and just show you up at the ceiling. It's amazing. So there, beautiful domed roof. Hi, Marie. And then I must just show you this, just stunning, this window. I'm going to try and zoom in on that. Look at that. Just amazing. And it's beautiful that it's all lit as well, all those tiny lights lighting it up. And then just below is this really intricate organ. I'm going to try and zoom once more. Oops, I didn't mean to do that at all. To look at that organ, it's amazing. Beautiful, beautiful round window. Just stunning. So I'm going to zoom back out again. We'll start to walk towards the entrance. And then we can talk some more. But isn't that just beautiful? I know it's echoing. I'm in a very, very echoey building. And in a minute, we're going to go just outside and the sound will be fine. But I'm in a very high domed building, as you can see. And all this stone, it's bound to make me echoey, I'm afraid. So how lovely is that? And how lovely was it for them to let us come in? Just amazing. It is beautiful, Terry. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Bonnie. Thanks. So I'm going to just sit here, actually, because I'm still scared of going out in the rain, basically. And I'll tell you something about the history. So Philip Howard was the Earl of Arundel in 1580, and he attended the court of Elizabeth I. But he was a devout Catholic, and therein lay his fate. So he was put in the Tower of London in 1585, and he was put in the Tower just for being Catholic. And he was in prison for 11 years. Oh, wow, Joe, you were here, gosh. So Sir Philip Howard was actually sentenced to be executed in 1595 just for refusing to abandon his faith. And luckily, he actually wasn't executed, but sadly, he died of dysentery while he was in the Tower of London. Yes, quite the opposite, but still a martyr in the same sense. So after that happened and he died of dysentery, they initially brought his remains back to the castle because that's where he'd lived. But then eventually they brought some of the remains into this building. And he didn't actually become a saint until 1970. And the strange thing about this is it's only been a cathedral since 1965. So it is an amazingly old building, but it was just the Catholic Church of Arundel. So as I say, this was opened in 1873 as a Catholic church. It became a cathedral in 1965, and then Sir Philip Howard was canonized as a saint in 1970. So it's quite a bizarre history if you think about it. I was quite surprised because I thought it had been a cathedral forever. And I'm just surprised at how stunning the building is. So here we go into the wild, wild yonder. Let's say goodbye to that beautiful building because we've got so much else to see in Arundel. This wasn't part of the plan. This was part of the wet weather plan. Because I don't like getting wet doing tours. So here we go. Now there are two things that might happen, of course. We might get a lot of wind and we might get issues with the sound because of the wind, and I might get very wet. But hey ho. The other thing I want to draw your attention to this beautiful cathedral. I'll try and get you a really good view from the outside because the outside is pretty stunning too. And it's very Gothic, solid looking building. I'm going to go further back. You get me and Bonnie muddled up. That's not fair comment for Bonnie, I don't think. I'm going to cross the road so we can get a better view. So there's the outside of that big round window. And there's your first view of the intricate Gothic stonework. Interestingly, this is actually made from Bath stone. I'm probably not saying that right because I'm a northerner. Bath stone, which comes from the west of England and has that distinctive colour. It is massive. It is absolutely massive. There you go. So it gives you some idea of the size of it. Look at that, all the way back there. Amazing. Right, so bye to the cathedral. Because now we're going to the ordinary parish church of Arundel, which I think is equally beautiful. And then we're going to work our way down into the town. You never guess what? It's stopped raining. Yay! Actually stopped raining. I'm happy. The only thing I've got to watch out for now is puddles. I want to draw your attention to this door, and you'll think, why? Why do we want to look at that door? Well, it's the first of many doors that are that colour. And what that shows you is that it belongs to the castle. So anything else we see that colour, we will know that it still belongs to the castle. Wherever we see it, that will indicate that it belongs to the castle. I think it's amazing, that cathedral. I will just give you one last upward glance at the intricate building. Just amazing. And that lovely archway. Okay, let's trot down the road. Welcome to those of you who've just joined. We're in Arundel on the south coast of England, about an hour and a half from London, about 3 miles from the coast, and about 3 miles from where I live in Worthing, in a very, very beautiful place called Arundel. And we're going to take a walk down towards the castle. But we're going to have a look at a few more interesting things on the way. Now, normally when I do this tour, we look down there and we can see the sea. But not today. All we can see is mist. It's kind of actually foggy, which adds a different look to the place. And it's definitely wet. In fact, the weirdest thing is, which I hadn't even thought about, is my glasses are getting wet. Is it far from, you mean East Preston? No, it's not far from East Preston. About 3.5 miles from East Preston. Yeah. All very close by, all these West Sussex towns. Some more interesting buildings. But we're actually going to head through here, through this lovely green area, to Arundel's main church, which of course will be the Church of England or Protestant church, as opposed to what we've just seen, which is a Roman Catholic cathedral. So this is amazing, this church too. I'm not going to go inside because I'm conscious that we've lost some time by going inside the cathedral. So I don't want to spend more time now at this end of the town, otherwise we won't be able to cover everything. But I do want to show you how pretty this church is. Again, on other times it's been so sunny and all the flowers are out, but I'm not going to let it put a damper on the day. So this is St. No, I'm above your head.
I don't think so.
I am.
Please wipe it off.
You can have a look at where I'm aiming. I'm aiming at the
No, I
clock
think
tower.
you've got me in. Could you wipe that bit off, please?
Okay. So this was built in 1380. And there's actually a chapel at the back that links up to the castle, which is that section out the back. And that links up to the chapel that's inside the castle. Now, sadly, in the Civil War, they used this church as their barracks and stables. In fact, in the Civil War, there was a lot of activity around Arundel and an awful lot of damage. Aren't they lovely flowers? Aren't they beautiful? An interesting thing I'd also like you to see over here, there is a wall with some arched windows in it. And that is the remains of a much bigger priory. We're going to see some of the priory that's still there today, but that shows you how it was much bigger at one time and connected up to the church, and indeed was also connected in its way to the castle. So we're going to go down and see the front of the priory. And there are two really interesting things about the priory. One that really amuses me, and I think you'll find it quite funny as well. And the rest is just an interesting fact. Really very wet. I don't think we'll be turning the camera around again to look at me. I shall look like a drowned rat. So this is the beginning of the priory. This is the end of the priory. And I'm going to draw your attention to this sneaky little door here. Because this is actually called the Priory Playhouse Theatre. And inside there is the tiniest theatre you can imagine. But it's just crazy. Just crazy. So that's called the Priory Playhouse Theatre. And now the priory is actually St Wilfrid's Priory Care Home. I think I got a picture of the inside. Oh, I don't think I did put that on. No, I don't think I did put that. Oh, no, I didn't put that on. I would say it's probably got about 40 seats. That is that tiny. So this is called St Wilfrid's Priory, and it's actually run by the Orders of St John. And it's a care home. And why that tickles me is because sometimes I think I'd quite like to end up somewhere like this. And I'm going to show you a sneaky peek through the gate. To their sort of gardens. Again, this is all such beautiful stone, such beautiful buildings. And I'll show you the whole run of the care home. I feel like booking a place. Look at that. How nice is that? You're quite high up here, so you've got a lovely view across the countryside down to the sea. And there, guys, is your first glimpse of Arundel Castle. How about that? It does look a bit magical in the mist in a way, but I must say I prefer that picture with blue sky behind it, to be honest. I need windscreen wipers for my glasses. Do such things exist? I think someone needs to invent them. So this priory has been many things in its time. It's been a school, it's been a college, and again, it was badly damaged in the Civil War. And then in 1861, it was actually converted into a convent. And when it was St Wilfrid's Priory, it was obviously inhabited by a group of nuns. But then that ended in the 1950s, and then it was abandoned for quite a while. And then in 1961, it became a children's home, and then later a care home. So it's been many different things, that building. So here we are coming down towards a sneaky gate to the castle. Now, this is not the way in that the public go. This is actually going to be your glimpse of the private entrance to the castle, which strangely, the door is open. How did that happen? Oh, I always get excited when the door's open because you never know who might be coming in and out, especially at this time when we've had so many celebrations in England. It could be anybody. And the other thing I need to look out for is whether the flag is flying, and it is. So the current family, the current Dukes of Norfolk, the family of the Duke of Norfolk, are actually there at the moment. So this is the top entrance, not the one used by tourists, but that gives you your first glimpse of the castle. And we're going to wend our way round this way for a minute because there's some other interesting buildings I'd like to show you on our way down into the town. And a lot of the buildings we're going to see are Georgian, as is this letterbox. Now, our letterboxes in England always have letters on them, and this just has a simple GR. So that means it was put there in the reign of King George. Most of them now have ER2 on them, and that were put there within Elizabeth's reign. But this is a Georgian postbox in a very Georgian town. I'm going to go down, take my life in my hands and cross the road. I thought at least today it wouldn't be very busy, but actually there's quite a lot of people around, quite a lot of traffic around. Okay, we're going. Sometimes I think it's quite a good idea when you have two people conducting a tour, because you can have somebody as your safety person and somebody to fend off the people that get cross. Hey, but we have to do it all, and it's a good thing to learn. I'm not sure which George that would be, but my guess is it hasn't got a number, and then it's George the First, because subsequently it would say GR2, GR3, etc. And the fact that it just had GR means to me that that must be George the First. So, wouldn't you just love to live here, Terry? The only thing I say is it's very hilly, and much as I would love to live here, I couldn't cope with the hills. So this is our next interesting building. It has a particular place in my heart because my daughter got married here. And this is actually the town hall. It is a lovely building. So this was built in 1836, and it was a courthouse and a jail. We're actually going to go and find the jail in a minute, but it's a bit further down the road. It's attached to the back of the building. And inside, there are large council chambers upstairs with those arched windows. And now it is just used as a wedding venue. And I had the great pleasure of seeing my daughter get married there. As I'm waiting for the bus to go by. Lovely. It's even more beautiful inside. It's quite good because you have all the wedding and the meal upstairs, and then downstairs there's like a crypt. So we had all the boogieing and the night events downstairs in the crypt, which is really rather lovely. It's even still got an old sign which says Arundel Town Council, and the old doorbell. Now, if my mother was here, she would be playing Knock Down Ginger, which is an old English game where you ring the doorbell and then you run for your life. Here comes another bus. Who said it was going to be quiet today? I want to show you this building. And I did put a thing on the Hago Voyagers group on Facebook, how interested I've become in architecture. And I really have. I've got a couple of books out about all the changes and things to look out for. And I know when people look at this, they probably think, I know, that's Tudor. But I hate to disappoint, because actually that's more newer than that, and that's actually called mock Tudor. But we are going to see some buildings as we get down into the town that are actually Tudor. And Arundel is actually built on an original medieval town. So the history of this place, and even Roman before that, so the history of this place is phenomenal. Just love this little sneaky garden. It's such a lovely place. Yes, we do have some roses. A little bit early for roses in my book, but it is June. We're not too early. Look, that's pretty. Roses and a little tinkly bell. Isn't that lovely? So we're now coming up to an interesting building, which again is classically Georgian, I've been learning. And how I know it's classically Georgian, just let these people pass. How I know it's classically Georgian, excuse me, is by the entrance. It's the, what I would call Doric pillars. Anyway, the pillars on the door and the shape above it. But the thing that tickles me, this would have been a private home. This would have been somebody's whole house. I know, Julia. People come to Arundel and they never see this. Look what this is now. China Palace. It's a massive Chinese restaurant. And look at the lovely lamps. They would have been gaslit originally. Just beautiful. So this would have been somebody's whole residence at one time. Quite a big house. And you just imagine the carriages and the horses pulling up outside. I've never known so many cars to come past me doing this tour. It's ridiculous. So if we look back up the hill, I've sort of come round a bend, but that the turrets you see at the top is where we saw that private entrance to the castle. And then this is the castle walls coming all the way down to meet up with the town. And now you get your first glimpse of the town in the rain, but with lots of pretty bunting up. Oh, goodness me. I'm proving the most difficult thing is actually my glasses, which is really weird. And I can't take them off because I won't be able to read the chat at all. Yes, it is hillier. Now, this is my problem. I love it here. I'd love to live here, but I couldn't do these hills every day. And also, to be honest, there aren't that many properties that I could probably afford. It is a very special, exclusive place. And to be honest, property doesn't change hands that often. So we're going to go down and we're going to... That's fine, Sarah. It's nice of you to thank me. I normally enjoy it a lot, but I've never done a whole tour in the rain, and it does prove slightly tricky. So, we'll have a look at some of these buildings. So largely the buildings that we see down the high street are all 1700s, 1800s. So Georgian, definitely Georgian, not quite coming up to Victorian. And I just love this shop over here. And I just love it because of the name. I don't know whether you can see that. I can hardly see anything through my glasses. It's called Spencer Swaffer Antiques. What a name! What a name. Spencer Swaffer Antiques. And this is also a lovely shop. Yeah, this has got lots of lovely prints in it. And there used to be one. You won't be able to see it, no, not clear enough today without extra light. A really old plan of the town, which is really good. I haven't even got a tissue for my glasses. This is really crazy. I'm going to find somewhere to go inside for a bit, and then it might be a little bit easier. It's actually stopping, I think. So the next building of interest, which is actually now Arundel Contemporary Art Gallery. Oh, that's kind, Diane. We can but try. Welcome, Kathy. You join us, and Terry, you join us in a very wet Arundel on the south coast of England. So the interesting thing about this building is it was actually where the West Sussex Gazette was published from 1853 to 1996. Now that newspaper is still in existence, it still prints off every week, and they started publishing that here in 1853. And in a minute, we're going to go around the corner to the old print works where they actually printed off the newspaper. So that's a really interesting building, perhaps more so to somebody me who's local, who still reads the West Sussex Gazette, because I didn't realise that that's where they first printed it off. So it is interesting. You can see all the bunting up from the festivities that they would have had in Arundel over the weekend when the weather was slightly better. So we're going to turn around into this street now, because this is where we're going to find some of our actual original Tudor buildings. It's also one of my favourite places to come when I come to Arundel, because it's now called Belinda's Tea Rooms. And I usually pop in here. They've got a tiny little courtyard out the back, and I have a cup of tea and a toasted tea cake. And that's my perfect Sunday afternoon out in Arundel, rounded off at Belinda's tea shop. This is a nice little square as well. Little square of shops. Everywhere's so surprisingly quiet today, it's ridiculous. So, this is an actual 16th century building. What's my favourite tea cake? So a toasted tea cake is a bit like a hot cross bun. It's like a dough bun with sultanas or raisins in, and then they toast it and slather it with butter. So there you go. Thank you, Rhonda, that's very kind. So this was a 16th century building. Sorry to say that its original purpose was not that great. So this used to be a slaughterhouse and stables. So there you are, for those of you overseas. That building was built in the 16th century. It's pretty awesome. I think it's pretty awesome. We get very used to living amongst such old buildings, and I think we take it for granted. And through doing these tours and the comments that people make, you realise that actually it's rather special. That is also an original Tudor building, except they've unfortunately filled in the most attractive elements of it. They've plastered in the beams at the bottom, and they've taken away the black wooden beams. England is quite well preserved, it is. And it is special, Diane. The other thing I love about Arundel, they've got some really quirky, lovely, lovely shops. There's a strange feeling. I get a strange feeling today. I have a feeling that the shops are largely shut. It's a bit weird. I am sorry, I do get so distracted. I can get distracted by anything. I can definitely get distracted by shoes and handbags. Stop it. Somebody stop that woman. Okay, so we're going to go in the old print works, and I will only stay in as long as I don't lose the signal. But let me show you the outside of the building. It doesn't look that big from the outside. I'll take you inside because it's a really interesting building. Can't quite imagine it being a print works, but look how beautiful this is. So up there where the windows are, that would have been like the editor's offices, I guess. And then the lower part of the building would have been the actual print works. And now what they've done is they've converted it all into tiny little shops. I'm not going to go in any further than that because I do think the signal will dip down. But isn't that just lovely? We're quite lucky really because we've got the place to ourselves. And we've got some art shops. We've got some antique shops. A lovely pair of dogs. Not quite sure. Oh, that's a jewellery shop. Also closed. But I think that's rather lovely. And up on the windows above, I don't know how clear that is, but on those yellow signs on the windows, it actually says the old printing works. So this is the old printing works of the West Sussex Gazette. So let's slide down the hill and we'll work our way back into the middle of the town. I don't know about Thomas Howard. Most of the Dukes of Norfolk had Howard as their surname, or Fitzalan Howard. I'm not sure there was a Thomas. I don't think so. When I've looked back at a lot of the people who lived in the castle, I don't remember a Thomas. And other than that, it's not an uncommon name in England. So you couldn't say, oh, well, yes, they're bound to trace back to that because it's quite a common name. And across the road, I'll have one last look at Belinda's tea rooms. And next to it is my other secret favourite shop, which I shouldn't really confess to. It's actually called Arundel Chocolates, but it's not the chocolate that I'm interested in. It's the fudge. They sell this amazing fudge. And they have a really weird one at the end, which happens to be my favourite, which is licorice fudge. And I know you're going to say, oh, that sounds disgusting. But I love it. I love it. So we're now going to cross the road to a pub. Somebody mentioned pub. There's lots of pubs here. And there is a reason for that. Because as we get down to the river, I'm going to talk to you about how Arundel used to be a major significant port. And I'm going to take you down to the quay. And because it was a port and a quay, of course, we got all the people off the boats, all the sailors. And I think that's why, or at least that's their excuse, that's why we've got so many pubs. Can licorice raise your blood pressure? Oh, that's interesting. Very interesting. Right, we'll cross the road, concentrate for a minute, and then take you under here. So, I get a chance to dry off a little bit. Just a little bit. So, no rain under here. This is the Norfolk Arms, and I wanted to bring you here because this is a very typical, isn't that pretty lighting, isn't it just? And that also would have been gas lighting at one time. But this is a typical coaching inn. And as we've just come through these big double gates, this would have been where your carriage and the horses would have come riding through. So the carriages would come through the gates, they'd pull up here, and the ladies and gentlemen would get out and enter the inn. And then the carriages would continue out the back to what for them would have been their car park, I guess. It is the car park now, strangely. But this is where the horses and carriages would have come, and round the back of that courtyard would have been the stable block. So this is a very typical coaching inn. And again, with my slight obsession with architecture, I do like looking at the back of buildings. And I quite like the back of this one. I don't know why. I suppose it looks a little bit industrial, really, if you think about it. But I kind of like it. And I certainly like the lights. So this is a Georgian coaching inn. This is over 200 years old. And this was built by the 10th Duke of Norfolk. And I think it's rather beautiful. They also sell rather nice, thank you, they also sell rather nice beer. And they have a very nice range of gin. I brought my cousin here from America. And she didn't really want to leave. I don't blame her. Rather lovely, isn't it? I'm just going to... Got a slight problem, and I don't know whether it's the signal or whether it's the wet, to be honest. But my gimbal is facing what I would say is the wrong way. Let's pretend it isn't. Let's pretend everything is fine. And let's head out back into the rain. I won't film in there, there's lots of people in there. But that's a nice place to go. It's called the Norfolk Tap. I think it's because my gimbal's getting wet, to be honest. If you don't mind, I'm just going to turn my gimbal off and turn it on again. And I will try and rectify the problem that it's swinging the wrong way around. I do apologise for the visual effect that has. I suggest you close your eyes for just 2 more minutes. And there we are, back in the building. So as I say, most of the town that we're in at the moment is 18th century, but the foundations are medieval. And we've seen some good evidence of Tudor times. It's just the rain, I know, it's just tricky. So we're going to walk down now to what's called the Market Square, where we have a war memorial, the cross. And interestingly enough, it's not until you know that you have a think about this, that if you look at the shape of the base, it's actually built on what was the well. It's actually the town well under there. But this is now a memorial for the soldiers of Arundel who died in the First World War. But I think it's interesting that it was actually, because this was the centre of everything, the market square, and that was the well. And I have seen some amazing pictures where the whole of this middle street is absolutely full of cattle and sheep. It was that kind of market. And the other thing I always like to show you here is there is a little plaque here to Billy Beer, a gentleman of Arundel. He was the mayor, a councillor, and he was the town crier between 1933 and 2014. Good old Billy Beer. I know the current town crier of Worthing. It's quite a bizarre job. They go around shouting their heads off rather a lot of the time. So we're going to wander down now towards the river. I'm very conscious that we're running out of time. My wet weather plan to go in the cathedral I think was definitely worth it, but it does obviously have an impact on the timing of the rest of the tour. But I'm sure you'll agree that it's been a fascinating walk round regardless. The town crier isn't exactly a paid job. I'll explain a bit more in a minute. I'm about to get run over. It's not always a good plan. Just wanted to show you this doorway. So this building is actually dated 1500. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Jared. So it's quite a mixture, the buildings of all sorts of eras. So the town crier is kind of an old tradition, and if you've been on my Morris Men dancing tours, he usually turns up to those, and you'll see he kind of wears a tricorn, a pirate's hat, and a bright blue gown, and he has like a chain like the mayor. This is a nice little shop. Antique jewellery, look at that. And so he turns up at various events, but the way he does earn money is you can hire him to turn up events and then you have to pay for him. So for example, you could have him come to your wedding. This is another lovely pub, and these lights, I like the way they've tried. Oh, thank you, Joseph. It's good to see you on board today. They've tried to make it look like they're still gaslit, which I think is rather charming. So they've got flickering lights in them. And yet another old pub, the Swan. This was actually built in 1789. And this pub was the main one that overlooked the quay. Now you'll find this hard to believe. Even I knowing this find it hard to believe. I'm going to find somewhere so I can show you some pictures of when this used to be the most thriving port. You cannot believe it. Had connections with the coast down to Littlehampton, and then that linked up to the Littlehampton linked up to the Portsmouth London canals. So the ships were going up and down, and this was a significant port. You can't believe it, and I'm going to show you pictures to prove it. Because even now, when you see the river in a minute, you'll think I'm having a laugh, and that no way could you get ships up here. So this is the river. As I say, 3 miles that way, you'd end up in Littlehampton on the coast. It's looking a bit murky today. I'm afraid the poor weather does stir up the mud. And this is the Arundel coat of arms. Antiqua Constans Virtute. To get extra brownie points if you know what that means. It means steadfast in ancient virtue. So even when I translate it, I don't know what it means. So I'm going to stand under this tree because I just want to show you. I think they are crows. Does that have some significance? I just want to show you the pictures that I've got of the ancient port. I will also show you, so there's one there. Of the sort of ships that used to come up, which is just unbelievable. And there's another one. I have to show you these because they're really just interesting proof of the size of the ships, if nothing else, that used to come up here. And not only that, but there were warehouses, there were shipbuilding yards. It was just a massive port. And this is the quay. This is the actual quay where the ships went from. And the other amazing fact that tickles me. So we're going back to the 13th century, right? And at that point, I always have it as a running joke that it was the first cross-channel ferry, because they used to run from here a cross-channel passenger service for priests and soldiers. And I can't believe that. So in a way, here you go, first cross-channel ferry. Very industrial, and it kept on running until the 1930s. Actually, we had tall ships still coming up here in the 1930s, bringing timber and salt and coal. And then, of course, the thing that changed all that in 1935 to 1937 was the coming of the railways, which was a major change in England. And then people weren't using the canals and they weren't using the rivers, and so this was defunct, basically. So I quite liked it under there. I was a bit drier under the tree. Thank you, Deirdre, for your tip. That's very kind. Very kind to support us, if only for our car parking and a cup of tea. So there's another interesting building over there. It's not that interesting really, because it's the post office, which, you know, it's always been a post office. It was purpose built as a post office, but it's been done in that mock Tudor style. So that was actually built in 1895, so it's quite old, but it's not as old as they'd like you to think it is. It's not Tudor. So when we cross over on this bridge is normally the point where we get the best view of the castle. Oh, I'm glad you've liked it, Deirdre. It's a fascinating place, and on a sunny day with blue sky, it's such a lovely backdrop for this castle in this town. And the reason I call the tour more than just a castle is because people come to Arundel, maybe on a day trip, and they go to the castle and that's it. Sorry about that, I just got a bit jiggly. And I wanted to prove that Arundel was more than that. And what we're looking at the moment is unfortunately covered with scaffolding because it's in a very sorry state. Is actually the ruins of a friary. And again, this is a very religious centre, this town. Very steeped in religious history, really. And this was inhabited by the Dominican monks, who were called Black Friars. because of the black gowns that they wore. I think the rainy mood, I don't know about cosy, it's not cosy for me. I think it adds atmosphere, that's for sure. So they're not sure how old this friary, as they call it, is, but we think it was built before 1253. And it used to be 2 stories high. And what we're looking at now is the remains of the refectory. And archaeologists have found that there's evidence of a jetty, which also gave them their private access to the river and to the quay. Now, unfortunately, we're not getting much of a view of the castle. But I do need to tell you the history of the castle. And I've also got some nice pictures to show you of inside the castle. And before anybody asks, can we go in the castle? Can we go in the castle? I'd love to take you in the castle. It is privately owned, it is a residence, and it is the biggest money spinner around. So I have asked for permission, but there's no way they're going to let us go in the castle, let alone film. And if I were to go in and show you the grounds, I'm afraid it's so expensive that I wouldn't. So you can just see the tower of the castle peeping above those trees. And I now know what the difference is and why I'm not getting such a good view of it. It's because I first did this tour in March. And of course there were no leaves on the trees. How strange is that? Oh, you'd lose signal on the inside, but I tell you, it'd be worth it, Sarah, for the grounds. And even more so, it would be worth it for the gardens. I'd love to show you the gardens. There's a bit of the old friary walls. And sorry, that's not great with the protective fencing and the scaffolding. But that is the old friary under there, right by the river, which is rather lovely. And over there is the main entrance to the castle. So I'm going to show you some better pictures to give you an idea. And I really want to show you. So the first one is a slightly aerial view of the castle, which shows you a better idea of the size of it and the grounds. And then I've just got a couple to give you a taster of what it's like on the inside. I have been inside. I've often take visitors and just to amaze people, and I obviously used to take my children, but it is quite prohibitive really. It's not owned by the National Trust. It's owned by a group called English Heritage, and they're even more tricky about letting people in, and they're also very tricky about how much they charge. So I'm very aware we're coming up to 50 minutes, so I haven't got very long left to tell you a little bit of the history. And I'm going to try and find a place to stay dry. Oh, it's not going to be easy, I don't think. This is the town's museum, and I'd like these tables for a very strange reason. Does anyone else immediately think of Narnia and Aslan laying on that table? Or is it just me? It's probably just me. I got a weird imagination. I know, I've got a weird imagination. I just see Aslan on that table. So, we can see a wee bit of the castle through there, but not very much. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of history, because I don't want to let you down not telling you about the castle at all. And it is a strange castle, and I think some of you might be disappointed that it's not as old as you'd like it to be. But it does have thousands of years of history. So we have to go back to 1066 and all that, an important time in English history, when the Normans came over to conquer us. And William the Conqueror gave a lot of people significant areas of land. And William the Conqueror gave Arundel to Roger Montgomery for his help in the Norman conquest of 1066. But within the terms of giving him all this land, he had to build a castle. So the first castle was called what they call a Motte and Bailey castle, which was built in the 11th century, Battle of Hastings and all that, yeah. So the first one, a motte, was a mound with a wooden keep or tower on the top. And that was actually started in 1068. And the lower grounds of that were enclosures which were used as living quarters for the soldiers and the animals and the equipment. And then the second castle, which was actually built of stone, was built between 1135 and 1138. But then came that terrible thing of the Civil War that I mentioned earlier, and the castle was very badly attacked. They were very destructive, and that was in 1663. And then it was all left a bit, fairly well abandoned, unfortunately. And it was in the 19th century that the 15th Duke of Norfolk rebuilt most of it, between 1875 and 1903. So the strange thing is there's this really old castle in a beautiful old town, but the castle is not as old as you think. I always find that a bit strange. And the current owner, the current resident, is actually the 18th Duke of Norfolk. And his name is Edward William Fitzalan Howard. So if you want to check him out, and I would recommend, if you're really interested, the Arundel Castle has a lovely website, and you can sneaky peep at a lot more of the inside. So you can find out a bit more. Now I'm going to have to love you and leave you, because I know there are two stunning tours coming up. So you've got Edinburgh to go to. And there was another one that was really important, slipped my mind at the moment. And you've also got my favourite people, Evia and Andrea, doing some stunning tours of Milan at the moment for the design week. So there's lots of lovely tours to go on. And I'm going to let you have a sneaky peep at how wet I am. I don't even think I can see out my glasses. There you go. Is it a look? What look is that? I have no idea. Do I look like I've just been swimming? Oh, here comes even more rain. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to do it again because I just love Arundel. Any excuse to come. And on a different day, it kind of looks different, and maybe we'd see more different things. And you know what? I completely forgot to take you down my favourite sneaky alley to see the jailhouse. I'm afraid I got a little bit distracted. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. I shall go and get back in the warm, and hopefully see you all again, those of you that are new to me. Do check out, do follow me. Thank you, Isis, for following. Thank you, Rhonda. I'd ask you to follow me. I would love you to write reviews. I don't think people are writing reviews so much. Do I look like I've just got out of jacuzzi? Oh, I wish. Thank you, Deborah. That's very kind. So yes, follow me and write reviews. Oh, it's very kind. And if you could possibly tip to encourage us to do more. Oh, Sir John, I didn't see you there. Then that's very kind as well. It just helps us to go slightly further afield, to think of different ideas. I'm working on some different ideas at the moment of taking you around some much smaller West Sussex villages, because I found a few that are just stunning. I went round Angmering at the weekend, and I want to take you to a village called Petworth. And I think you'll find these are all beautiful, beautiful villages. And my next Morris dancing tour on the 15th of June, thank you for that, Bonnie. My next Morris dancing tour is actually coming from a little tiny part of Worthing called Tarring. And we've actually got the Brighton Morris men coming to join our Morris men. So I think that'll be a bit of fun. Basically a pub crawl, but a pub crawl around some very, very old pubs, which the history of those you'll find quite interesting too. So I hope you'll join me again, and I'll say bye-bye for now, and thank you so much for joining me. Take care. Nice to see you, Bonnie. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.